2. 1, 2, 3, go. Somebody, insanity, I think I'll go be somebody. Okay, I lied, never mind, I think I'll go wrong somebody, so I can feel alive. I can feel the pain of a million bodies. And now that I'm home and can finally breathe, I hear the howling wind across the frozen plain. I am burning, I'm in flames.
And now that you're tuned up, I'm going to tune you in. My name's Scott Tamburino, and you're watching TunedIN Radio, and I have a special guest today, Tom Hamilton. Tom, thanks for coming.
Hey, man, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And, man, you know, people are saying or comparing you to Warren Haynes as being probably the most hardest working person in showbiz. How you holding up?
Pretty good. I'm doing all right, you know. Hey, you know, there's worse things. I think being the least, you know, working person in showbiz would be much worse than the hardest, you know. So it's cool, man. You know, I can't complain about being busy.
And on the brink of festival season, I know you guys are headed up to summer camp sometime this Memorial Day weekend. It's great to have a local Philly guy on our show. We broadcast from Philly, and I wanted to find out about your background. Where'd you grow up in Philly?
I grew up in West Philadelphia, Overbrook was the neighborhood, and I went to Robert E. Lamberton for grade school, for K to 8, and then I was lucky enough to be able to go to high school out in the burbs. I took the R5 every day.
Wow.
Out to Radnor. I went to Archbishop Carroll, and yeah, man. You know, I was in the area. I lived in West Philly till I was about 20, and then I moved out to Exton with my first band, which was called Brothers Past.
And I want to get to that, but
Yeah.
you come from a musical family.
Yeah, my old man was in bands and stuff when I was a kid. When I was growing up, he just like had a cover band, and my older brother was a musician as well. Is, I mean, you know, he's still a great player. So when he started playing drums, he needed somebody to play with. So my old man kind of put a band together around my brother being a drummer, so he can get some experience and figure it out. And then I was just the kid at the top of the stairs. You know, they would rehearse my basement, and you know, I would just sit up there and try to sneak down and check out what they were doing. And you know, and I just kind of, I wanted to do whatever my brother did, basically. So I started playing drums when I was probably 5 or 6. And
That's interesting. So you play drums as well, and man, I could go all over with that. I talked to Jake Siniger once, and he actually uses drum techniques in his guitar playing.
Absolutely, me too.
And I watched that staccato when you play,
Oh.
which, by the way, your performance was beautiful.
Thanks.
And before I forget, and before we go on, I just want you to, can you tell everybody your band and everybody that played with us today?
Yeah, sure. So it's American Babies, and we had Mark Sosnusky on bass, and Justin Mazer on guitar and vocals, and Alex Smith on drums, and the lovely Raina Mullen on guitar and vocal as well.
So segue back to you playing younger with your brother and everything. Was that the start of Brothers Past? Because I know, and I'm reading, if you go to Wikipedia, it's saying that your brother and Joe Russo started with you
With
on
the
that
American
project.
Babies. No, well, no, that was the Babies.
Oh, that was the Babies?
Yeah, no, the Brothers Past thing, you know, I started that when I was in high school, and I guess probably when I was around 17 or 18, you know, me and my brother we had played together. He had a band, or a few bands, you know, you're in high school, it's whatever, you know, and but so we started playing. He got me playing out at bars and stuff around the city when I was about 12, and that lasted for probably 4 years or so. And then I kind of, you know, I got to 16. I was kind of more into chicks and being in high school, you know. So I kind of stopped for a minute and put together my own thing. And then when I wanted to really kind of start taking it seriously, you know, I reached out to my brother and I was like, "Yeah, man, do you want to try to do this thing?" And that turned into a band called Brothers Past, and you know. It was cool, you know. I was with him my whole life, my brother, and up to that point, playing wise. And when I was about 21, he decided he wanted to go a different direction with his life, and he bailed and kind of left me there in this situation. I was like, well, I can either, you know, figure something else out as well, or you know, I've already been doing this my entire, you know, independent life, so I might as well kind of keep going. And so so Brothers Past kind of came out of that.
I want to focus mostly on the Babies, but I do want to make this point. Okay, so the music scene around that time and around the time that Brothers Past had started.
Yeah.
I mean, in my eyes, and this is only me saying, you're probably the soul. You and the Disco Biscuits are like the soul start of the electronic area. It was such a unique sound, Brothers Past.
Yeah, well, and I was just talking to somebody about this not that long ago. I mean, that late '90s, early 2000s thing was really when like the term jam band even became a real
Right.
thing. It was born out of the Fish and the Spin Doctors and Blues Traveler and Dave Matthews. They were a class, you could say, of people, and they were the spawn off of the Dead and the Almonds. So their whole thing happened, and then it kind of that term came about, that jam band thing, and so
But
by
not jam band as much as electronic.
well, I mean,
you
so
implementing
they
that.
had their own thing,
Yes.
and then Fish became huge, and everybody kind of started ripping off Fish. And then, it was a thing where separately there were, I guess, 4 or 5 bands that all around the same time had the idea to start implementing this other stuff. Something different, something electronic and something weird. And there was, the Disco Biscuits and Brothers Past and Soundtribe Sector 9, The New Deal, and Lake Trout. I would say those were the bands that really figured it out, and we all came from different sides of it. Lake Trout was a drum and bass band. The New Deal was a house music band. The Disco Biscuits were trance music, and and so it was all different. And and Brothers Past, where we were more of like indie, like kind of like what Radiohead was doing at the time. We were way more of a indie rock electronic thing, and so everybody had their own identity.
Right.
But there was a common thread there, which was just electronic music and trying to take this new use of technology into music and see what you could do with it. Not only see what you could do with it, because there was certainly Spangle and all sorts of popular electronic music happening, but nobody was doing it with a live band and having the ability to improvise with it. It's how do you take this thing that a computer makes that is so rigid and on a grid, and how can you make that mean something in the moment instead of it meaning something when you made it in your room, in weeks, months, or years ago? So that was the thing. It was a new flavor to use in improvisation, and we were all pretty stoked.
It was a new flavor,
Yeah.
and you do it beautifully. But I want to read a quote that you said. You said, "Whenever the creative itch is in the moment, that's what we are. That's what we do, and that's what we sound like." So, from Brothers Past, your creative flow started to go in different directions. And I read, you have a vast background of Americana.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I grew up
Does this
on
all stem from to
my folks. My dad and my mom. I mean, my mom was Clapton and the Beatles and that stuff. My dad was Willie Nelson and the Dead and Merle Haggard and that stuff. And it got to the point where what Brothers Past was doing, and our colleagues, the Biscuits and all those guys, there became an explosion of other bands that were all just kind of just doing what we were all doing, and it became easy to do.
right?
It was no longer uncharted territory. It was no longer exciting. It was just a bunch of people ripping off what we were doing, and I kind of had the thought process at the time of like, well, really anybody with a computer and a keyboard can do a passable version of electronic music.
Right.
What not any person can do necessarily, though, is write a song that matters, and write a song that means something, and write a song that's going to live on beyond their life.
So as I read on, you started to do fill-in shows in between the Brothers Past stuff.
Yeah, I
And it
started
kinda-
writing more of that music, more of the Americana stuff, and the first American Babies record was supposed to be the next Brothers Past record. We put a record out that was called "This Feeling's Called Goodbye," and it got us a lot of attention. People were really stoked on it. A lot of people were in the press were saying, this is the future of what music's going to be. It's going to be
Right.
electronic indie rock, and that is exactly where it went, obviously. But like I said, with everybody doing that shit, it just got boring to me. So I was like, hey, let's let's throw everybody a curveball here, man. You know, like Zeppelin put out Zeppelin 2, which,
Right.
you know, blew them up. And then they put out Zeppelin 3, which half of that record is acoustic. So I was like, well, let's do that. Let's make Zeppelin 3. Let's do a record that is half no electronic, anything at all, and then half of the most insane electronic music you've ever encountered, you know? And so I wrote, I guess, probably 8 songs in this fashion, this acoustic fashion. And the BP guys just weren't having it, you know? We were burnt out, and we were also in our mid-20s, and people, you know, there's all sorts of mitigating factors there. But, you know, I was basically told by the band that, you know, hey, man, you want to play that kind of music, you should go start a different band because we're not doing it.
No, we're so glad you did.
You know, hey man, so am I. You know, it's you know, it's freeing. You know, I never wanted any band that I had to be something that was pigeonholed into anything particular.
And you say that, and that's a good quote. It's freeing because every single American Babies album
Very
is
different from the
unique in
last.
itself
Absolutely.
and very, very different.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of people that make the same record over and over. It's just not something I dig. I mean, there's a reason why David Bowie's David Bowie. You know, I mean, the guy completely reinvented himself every 6 years. You know,
Right.
and you know, same thing. Zeppelin was the same thing. You know, you listen to their progression of records; they all change. They all say something different. Same thing with Radiohead. Everybody, all the greats move on, and they don't just keep making the same album. So you know, that's my MO. You know, I don't want it to be. I just don't want it to be too easy to be defined. You know.
Right. So forward on to American Babies.
There we are.
Album
American
number
Babies.
4? This is number 4,
this
right?
Is, yeah, our 4th record.
An epic battle between light and dark. And I did get to read your jam band interview, jam band.
I don't know. I mean, I do it. You know,
Well,
I do interviews with all of them.
the topic of the album I can't even say album anymore, right? I have to say compilation, right?
No, it's an album, man. It's an album. That's
light and
what it
dark,
is.
depression.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But I want to ask about the artwork first, because to me it looks like Spy versus Spy on the front, and it's just so awesome. Your marketing, I love it. And where the idea for the spy and the cat and
Well, it was more of so those masks they're called plague masks. They're from the Black Plague, and doctors would wear them, and it has the extended snout because, as we can imagine, what the smell of a decomposing living person smells like, which is what happened with the Black Plague. You know, you basically would you were like a leper.
wow,
So the doctors that had to deal with these people, they had these masks. So in the end of the beak, was like potpourri. So they just weren't puking on themselves all the time.
Yeah, wow,
With the
interesting.
smell. So that's
really deep.
That's what the mask is. You know, it just for me when I was coming up with the concept for the art, it was, you know, I knew what it all meant. I knew what I wanted to say, and I saw something online where it was a bunch of very old pictures, and it was just a collection of you know, it was like 30 of the creepiest old pictures, you know, you've ever seen or something. And there were a lot of pictures of kids at Halloween wearing these kinds of masks. Not because they were trying to be creepy necessarily, just because that was the technology of what a mask was then, you
Right.
know. And it was, man, they were scary as hell looking. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting way to go, you know. So I wanted to make something that kind of looked like that. It kind of had that vibe, so that's why it's black and white. And you know, I also didn't want there to necessarily be a front and a back cover, because the light and dark thing is equal, you know. So on the LP, there's no writing on either side at all. So it's really up to you which side is the front. So you know, this would be the light, because the person in the white is still themselves and innocent, and you know, the flower.
that is so awesome.
And then the back would be the not so innocent. You know, she now has a knife. The flower's destroyed, and even the dark guy there can't stand to deal with it. You know, and so you know, that was just kind of it. This is actually not that far from my house. These houses, I found it in, or actually, Raina, our bandmate, she found we spoke about the concept or whatever, and she was driving around our neighborhood, and she's like, I found the spot. I know exactly where we should take the shots. And so, yeah.
It was definitely a success, and I just wanted to say that the album is real deep to you, and unlike the other three, it's about depression, and I know you had battles with helping a young lady out early on that you were dating. And
yeah, man, it's it's a weird thing, I've personally, I've dealt with depression for my entire adult life, and and when you deal with it with yourself, I'm sure anybody can get analyzed and they'll fit into some column or some category of something, but but I've dealt with it my whole life, and I'm very self-aware and of how it affects me and how it affects the people around me.
The album to me is a very positive force in that direction and to help people. And I want to end talking about the album with the flavors that I'm hearing in it. Now people have commented about Pink Floyd solos and Bowie-esque 80s type stuff.
Sure.
I did today. I was listening to, I forget what track I had on. I'm hearing the Cars, man. I mean, it's really over the top.
Well, going into the thing, man, I don't even really listen to music that much. A lot of sonically, I'm more inspired by film than anything else. A lot of the sound of this record and the vibe of it was mostly, the first season of True Detective, Deadwood, which was an HBO show. And
great.
Yeah, I mean, this new
very
form,
cinematic.
Yeah, new form of storytelling, this long form of storytelling that is just remarkable. With even starting with The Sopranos and going from there, The Wire and all that stuff, and that's really more so where I get.
And I binge watch that stuff. It's great to have Netflix now because you could watch it all in a month.
Well, I just think it's for me, I like seeing what people at the top of their game are doing that aren't in music. What are some of the great actors doing? What are some of the great directors doing? These other people that are just as much of artists as I am or any musician. Pardon me. And so that's where I really draw a lot of stuff over the years is more so from.
And it definitely adds, man. It makes it a work of art, not just a CD. It's a statement. It's a long form statement. It's not just cram it into 3 minutes. I've done that. I my previous records have the 3-minute song, and which is an art in itself. But I've said before, this record isn't a bunch of short statements. It is a meditation on mood. And it's a beautiful CD. I want to say AmericanBabies.net. Go there. You can buy it. I want to touch real fast on Joe Russo's Almost Dead and Billy and the Kids. Were you a Deadhead growing up?
Absolutely, yeah. My dad was a huge head, and so from birth, I've always been around it. My first music I owned as a kid was when I was 4. My dad gave me a cassette of Red Rocks '78,
and you were hooked.
And yeah, man.
Did you ever get to see Jerry play?
Yes, I saw him on the last tour, '95.
'95.
He was obviously
not Dylan Dead, right?
Great. At RFK Stadium. I saw him 2 shows there, and then I saw the first on Broken Chain at the Spectrum here in March, and then. And then in June, 2 nights at RFK with Dylan opening.
I did the RFK with the Electric Blue Jacket, and he came out and did Watchtower, right? Bob Dylan and Jerry.
I mean, dude, this was.
I know.
I was 14 or something, so head full of God knows what, and so. Yeah.
Joe Russo is also a local guy.
Ish.
Ish?
North Jersey.
He is North Jersey.
Yeah,
okay.
Franklin Lakes. Yeah. Him and Marco.
And Marco, and I need to add Marco. I need to add the whole band Scott as well.
Yeah, Scott's from Lambertville, which is right across the river from New Hope.
I wanted to say that it's a whole different element, Joe Russo's Almost Dead, because it brings a whole new dimension to what the Grateful Dead did. I walked in and saw you play the first time, and you were doing Lazy Lightning, and I nearly fell on the floor. I'm like, Lazy Lightning? Talk about the improv and the chemistry between you guys.
Well, I mean, those guys, that band, minus Marco, was the first incarnation of American Babies. It was me,
Right.
Joe, Scott, and when my brother was in the military, so when he got shipped over to Afghanistan, Dave Drywitz played with us. So, you know, we go back.
Yeah.
For sure. Me and Joe have been playing together and have been friends since 2000. So there's just a lot of chemistry there, and you know, everybody has been playing together in some fashion for a good amount of years, at least a decade. So when it comes to the improvising, it's a lot like it's exactly how it is when we hang out. You know, when we hang out, we're all laughing and busting each other's balls and saying funny stuff and doing whatever. And when we get on stage, it's the same thing, except we're not speaking; we're just playing. You know. And,
But your emergence in the Grateful Dead scene or in the Dead world is huge right now.
it's weird.
And I have to ask you,
Yeah.
as one of my last questions,
Sure.
is what is it like playing with Bob Weir?
You know, it's surprisingly easy playing with all those guys because, I mean, realistically, I've been playing with them my whole life. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't know.
They didn't
You
know.
know, but so doing that stuff, playing with any of them. You know, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to play with all four of the guys, and they do something, and you're like, oh right. Of course you were going to do that because that's what Bobby does the Bobby and
Bobby
Billy
does
does
the
the Billy fills.
Yeah.
It's interesting playing with Bill without Mickey because he plays more like he did in the early '70s when it was just him.
And I want to touch on that,
Yeah.
and because Bill Kreutzmann playing the way he did in the '70s,
Yeah.
he kind of looks to you to conduct and to be the to-go-to guy.
Yeah,
Right?
it's interesting. It's kind of unnerving a bit. Like it's one thing to.
I didn't mean it like that, but I mean that's how they played back then, right?
Well,
So
yeah,
it's
I mean,
kinda-
him and Jerry had the biggest bond, or at least that's what I've gathered. So when he was playing, it was definitely he was connecting with the lead melodic instrument, which happened to be Garcia. So when we play, that's where he's looking, and
absolutely.
and I'm sure if you, I haven't seen Dead and Company yet, but I'm sure if you see a Dead and Company show and you pay attention to Bill, he's probably keeping his eyes on Mayer.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I meant by it.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, it's the position, it's the spot. I'm sure he was doing that with Trey as well, and I mean, that's just how it is. And I'm the same way with drummers, which is why I think me and Bill really get on, because in every band that I play in, it's all the first thing, being a drummer first.
the rhythm section.
Yeah, the first thing to me is locking in with that drummer.
Right.
So with J-Rad, it's me and Joe, and I'm standing right next to him, and we're right there, we're eye to eye and ear to ear, and making it happen. The same thing with the bass. Al and I, it's it starts with what we're doing, and then everything else builds around it, and it applies with Billy too. It's cool. But to answer your question, Bob.
Yeah.
Hey man, Bob's the best.
Yeah.
They all are. They're all just such cool dudes. They give you. They're very trusting. It's if you're going to be playing with them, they're not going to hold your hand. They're like, hey, look, if you're here for a reason. So do what you do.
And hey, so is Tom Hamilton, the coolest for me. And I really want to thank him for stopping out today. Go see him. The festival's tours, the season has just begun. You can catch him with the American Babies. You can catch him with Electron, Billy and the Kids, Joe Russo and Almost Dead.
Yeah.
Maybe your brother's
I'm everywhere.
past. We don't know.
I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. But,
Tom, thank you so much for coming into
Anytime,
Tuned In. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
Scott Tamburino, tuning out.
regret stay. This is the truth. This is the pain. This is leaving. This is revenge. Don't walk on by. Don't walk on by. Don't walk on. Don't walk on by. Don't walk on. Don't walk on by. Don't walk on. Don't walk on. Don't walk on. Don't walk on by. It's just an ordinary conversation. You pack your bags, you lift your arms, the victor. No, I couldn't wait for you. No, I couldn't wait for you to come home and pray for me. No, I couldn't wait to leave it all behind. Oh, to leave the bed, to leave the feeling, to leave the pain. This is the truth. This is the pain. Oh, this is leaving. This is revenge. Don't walk on by. Don't walk on, don't walk on, don't walk on by. And I couldn't wait to leave it all behind. The home, to leave the bed, to leave the bed, to leave the rain. This is the truth. This is the pain. Oh, this is leaving. This is revenge.